News.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sander, and a very good evening to you and your listeners.
Good evening to you too. How is your boss and friend reacting to this news?
For us, it's not really surprising because we have maintained from day one that the court has not brought its final judgment, even though it has been reported within certain media spaces that there has been a final judgment. What we insisted was that this was, and the earlier one we saw involving the $18 million was just an award that was given by the jury, which in any case even was objected to. And at the end of the day, the court had to make a determination on the objection. But interestingly, even the lawyers for Honorable Agyapong, they in the today's judgment unwilling apparently even use a different technical approach or a strategy. You see, the $500 award that we are witnessing today is not a flat or a reduction of any 18 million judgment. There was no 18 million judgment even to begin with. So what we are seeing is not a reduction or slash of any prior judgment. What we are seeing now, that is the $500 award, resulted from a motion that was filed by Honorable Agyapong's lawyers to mold the jury award. So yes, first of all, there was a jury award, but it was not adopted by the court yet, so cannot be construed as a judgment of the court. But kindly, they filed a motion to mold the judgment, more or less. For simple terms, you may call it review, because you have to understand that if you look at defamation in the New York State, where the writ or the application was filed, you will realize that they consider their statute. They consider three forms of damages. That is the compensatory damages, the punitive damages, and the actual damages. And when we talk about the actual damages, we are referring to the where the person who or the plaintiff argues that indeed there has been some actual damages and is able to quantify it in economic terms and demonstrate to the court that indeed there has been some economic loss. If you do not ask for actual damages, automatically per the laws of New Jersey, you are not entitled to punitive damages. So therefore, what the court will look at is compensatory damages. And if you look at the whole entire writ by Mr. Anas, he never laid claim for any relief in the area of actual damages. So what the court was only restricted to do within the current circumstance in the present case was to only award the compensatory damages. And if you look at New York law, the statute is very clear when it comes to compensatory damages. So far as you are indeed able to establish there has been defamation or establish that the defendant is guilty of defamation, statute puts the threshold for compensatory damage to anything not more than $500. So for emphasis sake, this is not a reduction of an earlier judgment. When there is a judgment, you don't go and plead for a rejection. What you do is to go for an appeal. It can go through the court hierarchies up to the Supreme Court, and even at the Supreme Court, if you are not satisfied, like all of us know, you then have to go for a review. The strategy that was adopted this time around is just a motion or an application by the defendant's lawyer. When I refer to the defendant, I'm referring to Honorable Agyapong's lawyers, mold the proposal or the award that came from the jury, and that has resulted in the $500 that we are witnessing. Now, for us, we wish the court had not been awarded anything, but certainly in the wisdom of the court, they are of the belief that Honorable Agyapong should pay $500 as compensatory damages to Mr. Anas.
Interesting.
The decision of the court.
Interesting. Now, which means that the whopping amount that your friend would have paid, which everybody thought was going to be the case, whether it was slashed or actually this was the real decision, is from $80 million to 500 cedis. That's huge. Even I can pay the 500 cedis for him. But
it's dollars.
I mean, $500 to him. I mean, now the CD and the dollar, you've forgotten, it's almost neck and neck. So $500 versus 500 cedis, very close.
Now that we are sharing dollars in this country.
No.
I'm sure even if the Agyapong is unable to pay, we'll get to our friends who help us.
Agrada will pay. That's on the lighter side. But Anas looks at it from a different angle. He says our victory is in the judgment and not the award. And if you look at the last but one paragraph, he says, he says before that, he says, many avenues of redemption accrue to me, but it is important to state, as I previously did, that this fight has not been about the money, but rather a fight for truth and justice. I am happy that not a single allegation was proven against me in court when Kenneth Agyapong was given full opportunity to substantiate. I'm reading this as a premise to ask my question. Your friend who you speak for has political ambitions. Now, for him to be found liable of character assassination in a court is a big deal. So he may not be paying so much in monetary terms, but the fact that he has been found culpable or liable in court should be something that disturbs his image, does it not?
Well, I think eligibility criteria for running for the office of a president in any country is stated clearly in their laws. And if you come to Ghana, it's also not an exception. I am not sure, just on the mere basis of going to court or somebody taking it to court, and the court more or less siding with some of the reliefs by the applicant, necessarily concludes that you are not eligible to run for office in your country. Even in America itself, where this judgment was passed, Trump himself was convicted and was waiting for sentencing. Yes, so he's the president of America. So I do not see how within Mr. Kenneth Agyapong's circumstance it will be anything different. He subjected himself to the principles of rule of law and accountability in America, and at the end of the day, the court made a decision as law-abiding citizen, even in Ghana, and of course also, I mean, a resident in America. Certainly, he has to respect the decision of the court. Being in court and the court not ruling for you does not necessarily means that you will not be eligible for other offices. That's why we have eligibility and qualification criteria for all offices. Other than that, any person who has lost any civil matter, whether land, whether defamation, any suit, probably may not even be eligible for any office. At the end of the day, you can go into history.
This is not eligibility in the terms of what the law says. It is more about what the public sees of this person who is seeking their vote or seeking to lead them. This person has been found liable of defamation. That should be a big deal in terms of his character and the things he says about people, and the fact that he has not been able to prove any counterclaim that he made against Anas Anas in court, and is having to pay, even if it's $500. Anas says it is not the money, it is the judgment.
First of all, I think we have to understand the legal route in its full context. The fact that circuit court or district court in New Jersey rules for you, does not necessarily mean that if today I even want to contest the judgment, I do not have the right to contest. That judgment is not an absolute judgment, especially looking at the context where your question is coming from. If it has to do with whether or not we even want to construe that as a full judgment, I mean, recourse even lies to us. We even pursue it and overturn the judgment up to the Supreme Court. And I'm telling you that even in America, Trump, the current president of America, who at the end of the day was even convicted by the apex court of the land, still became the president of America. Why? Because the law is explicitly clear that whichever way, in terms of the court processes, should be differentiated from the qualification eligibility criteria. Of course, I understand that when it comes to the court of public opinion, people may have their own, how do you call it? People may have their own interpretation. People may have their own opinions and other things. But there are also who are of the view that even what Ken Agyapong has always been standing for are things that people also side with him. I am also even of the same belief. Of course, I mean, it all boils down to the manner and way that Mr. Agyapong might have said it. But I'm also of the strong conviction that Mr. Nasser's approach is not satisfactory, and or less we may also have to look at that.
Okay.
So I fully will disagree with anybody who says that the fact that I have lost, let's say, a first round or a case in court necessarily construes that I may not be a very good candidate. The classical case is Trump, who is a test case to defy that logic that losing a case in court does not necessarily mean that you cannot be a good leader.
Very well.
There are also other good traits that Mr. Agyapong has demonstrated.
Okay.
Very formidable one, including his industrialization, his entrepreneurship and everything. And people may also be more interested in also that aspect.
Thank you so much for speaking to us, sir.
You're welcome.
That's Kwasi Kwarteng. He speaks for Kennedy.